If I had to say what's my number one favorite thing about being an anime fan, it's making favorites lists. Today's my birthday. I'm 27 now, and so I'm gonna phone it in today and do an easy video that you'll watch anyways, cause it's all anybody actually cares about is what's your fucking favorite anime. I mean, like, that is the most important question that you could possibly ask. It's the defining characteristic of who you are as a fan. All of your opinions can be judged on this basis. Not necessarily that you have good or bad taste, but simply that what you like will say the most about how you feel about the medium. Like, what you're looking for in anime, its proximity to your favorites list. What you like will be stuff that's closest to, and what you dislike will be stuff that's farthest away. Assuming that there's any logic behind your choices whatsoever. So, I've made a few favorite list videos before. Way back in 2014, I had made a top 10 list. However, it was solely based on shows that I had watched in that year. Because of the fact that there was a span of about 2 years that I wasn't really into anime, and over that time my tastes in media changed considerably. So I didn't really trust any of my old scores or old opinions or old favorites. I wanted to just like start fresh and, and just talk about what my favorites were from that point forward. So, that's what I did, and then later I made another video called My Other Favorite Anime, where I talked about anything that wasn't on the list or that I hadn't given a score to yet that had at some point been a favorite and that I suspected had a chance of being one again. Now, I've also had a theory for a long time that your favorites list could be reasonably about 10% of how many anime you've completed. And when I was looking through my shit, I've completed 940 shows, so that's 94 favorites that I could have. And honestly, I could make a 94-part favorites list, but like at the end of it, we're getting into stuff that like, it's like a favorite compared to other shows. It's something I would revisit time and again, but not necessarily that it's like, oh my god, this is fucking representative of everything I care about kind of thing, which these 27 are. This was not an easy list to cull down. I had like 41 candidates, and by the end of cutting them, I was starting to get antsy about it. Now, things have also gotten weird, because towards the back end of last year, I got real into smoking weed and watching anime movies, and my taste kind of shifted again. However, it's hard to say how much of it was just the weed talking, because I gave a lot of 10s. I gave a lot of 10s to stuff, mostly on the basis of aesthetics, and my mal became a total clusterfuck, because I'm not really comparing things against each other anymore. There's some shows that, like, I've, given scores to, and it's been long enough since then that I'm not sure about the score anymore again. So it's a total clusterfuck. But, I just went through everything, I followed my heart, I followed my gut, and I tried to make a real top 27. Not on the basis of recency, not on the basis of scores, just on the basis of what do I think are my favorite anime, in what order. Some of these I've had the fortune of rewatching at least a few episodes of and getting a sense of them. There's also a lot of stuff I thought would be on my favorites list that I rewatched a few episodes, got a sense of it, and went, maybe I won't like this as much now. But, I'm at least somewhat confident in this list. And I'm also somewhat confident that people who've been following me for a long time are going to have some shockers in here, especially because if you've been going on my mal as the basis of what you think would be my top 10, I haven't updated that shit in fucking forever, so it's totally irrelevant. Let's get to it. We're going to do this in, in ascending order, I guess is how you would put it, as you do with list videos. So, number 27 on my top 27 anime list is The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya. This is one that I haven't watched in a long time. However, just looking at even clips of it feels so good. This show was so far ahead of its time visually. Like, it's not only just incredibly well directed and composed, but the color compositions, the way it used digital effects with the lighting and everything, was just kind of on another level from most of the stuff being made at the time. And Kyoto Animation has continued pushing the envelope in that direction and escalating, but I honestly think they've gone too far. Like, I look at a show like Violet Evergarden, and it feels like they've somehow they've gotten so into the idea of just constantly pushing the envelope that they've pushed it beyond the point where it even actually looks good. But Haruhi was in a nice, clean middle ground where it was, you know, it looked beautiful and it still holds up today. You know, it's not state-of-the-art anymore, but it is still aesthetically pleasing to revisit. Anyway, aside from the visuals, what I really loved about this show the most was Haruhi, the character. I related to her very strongly as somebody who, you know, felt like... I guess she's kind of a chunibyo, but, like, the truth is she actually is God. You know, she kind of gets whatever she wants, and I've always had that weird feeling that, like, I was... You know, I overexert the idea that, like, I am in control of everything and that, like, I am just a master of my destiny and everything fucking bends to my will. And yet, at the same time, so often things do go my way because I approach life with that confident mindset that, you know, I feel like that duality there is what guides the character. There's also just tons of fun shit. If you're a big anime fan, then there's lots of nods to you know? Again, I haven't watched the show in a long time, so it's hard for me to get any more specifics than that. Number 26, Serial Experiments Lain. Lain is just one of those shows you can't stop thinking about because it is so distinctive, and it is very good. Like, I do think that Lain, I think it kind of suffers a little under its own hype, because it is so known for being this show that, like, is so deep, and you can watch it over and over, and it's so trippy, and it's so weird. The second half of the show is not that weird. It's pretty straightforward. Like, the first half is mostly where it's, like, really art house and expressive and fucking crazy, and then the second half there's a lot of, like, characters just explaining what the hell the point of it all is. But, nonetheless, what the hell the point of it all is deeply fascinating, and, like, as far as meditations on, like, the techno-singularity future, it's the best one you're gonna get, and, like, it was ahead of its time, but it's funny because people act as though, like, Lain somehow just predicted what the internet was going to be. No, Lain just understood what the internet was at a time before most people knew what the internet was. The internet hasn't changed significantly since the 90s in terms of what it's capable of and what is happening there. It's just that it's on a much bigger scale and much more people identify it now. So it's not that Lain is, like, somehow more prescient. It just... Chiaki Kanaka just knows lots of stuff about shit, man. That's just... He's a fucking well-researched guy. But with Lain, it's not just the, you know, incredible writing, the incredible directing, the incredible art design at the heart of it all. I used to be the biggest Yoshitoshi Abe fan. I've got all his fucking art books, signed doujinshi and shit. But even, yeah, like, the Lain art book itself is an interesting experience that adds even more to the show. So, for me, it's not just, like, the act of watching Lain, but the whole thought of Lain. And you're gonna hear a lot of that as I go through this. Like, a lot of my favorites, it's not just because the show is good, it's because it makes me think about something, or, like, my understanding of a certain topic always relates back to this show. So, anyway... Number 25, Log Horizon. This used to be a lot higher up on my list, but honestly, the thing about Log Horizon is that this is the most, like, the intrigue is in the ideas. Like, watching the show itself, it's not great. It's got a lot of fluff, it's got a lot of just, like, the characters aren't that well written or well realized. Like, it feels very light novel trash, is basically what I'm saying. But... whereas most light novels will, like, have one idea that they're, like, kind of exploring, Log Horizon is, like, just trying to explore the entire concept of society and, like, everything that makes it tick, from economics to education to, like, you know, just foreign policy. It's like they tried to just figure out everything about how society works and have something to say about it. And it's pretty interesting shit, for the most part. All while being a fun, you know, isekai thing. Definitely the best isekai show that I've seen still. Number 24, Kara no Kyokai. This has been a long-standing member of my list, and this is another one where I don't think all of the Kara no Kyokai films are necessarily amazing, or even that they were all necessary. the 5th one and the 7th one are so, and the 1st one, which I love just for aesthetic reasons, but like the 5th and 7th are so much more interesting than the others that they really carry the entire thing. Like they are the centerpieces of it. The other stuff just feels like it's the lore that is like there for you to understand what's going on in these 2 actual movies. But I mean, the 5th one is just the way that it is structured and how that plays into the narrative is something that is really fascinating and fun to watch, and it's kind of how my mind works. Like, the Kara no Kyokai films feel like my aesthetic. Like, everything that I have always liked, the genres I grew up with, the whole Faust light novel style that I've talked about in lots of videos, like, it best represents that, and so regardless of how actually interesting I think the characters and stories are, because, like, it's pretty pretentious. I'm not gonna lie. Like, the things that the series has to say are not so unique that they needed to be expressed in such a, like, overblown way. And I don't think that all of the detail was interesting, but enough of it is that it stays on my list. I realize I'm being vague as fuck, but this isn't... A lot of these I have not watched in some time. Number 23, Garzy's Wing. Garzy's fucking wing. It's Garzy's wing. Mom, why'd you give me hot noodles on such a hot day? It's good for you. Too hot. I quote that shit, like, literally every day. I am constantly quoting the Garzy's Wing dub. It's the most fun you can have. Just watch the first episode drunk with some friends and, you know, appreciate that you are watching the room of anime, and you will have a fucking great time. Number 22, Fooly Cooly. I already wrote a whole fucking video recently where I just basically explained what Fooly Cooly is. I mean, it's the one I've seen the most, pretty much, of any anime. What the hell is on the back of this that I'm showing you right now? This is when I planned out my own Christmas alternative. Anyways, which we did. So, Fooly Cooly is basically like a music video, you know, that tells a exciting coming-of-age story. The characters are super memorable, the aesthetic is super memorable, every shot is gorgeous, every song is amazing, you know, the Pillows fucking killed it. Yeah, it's just all around good. I would say my only complaint with Fooly Cooly is that, like, it is just a 6-episode tight story that, like, once you've seen it enough times, you can't go back to it continuously anymore. Like, even though it is, like, you can rewatch it over and over again, eventually you'll be like, well, okay, I've memorized Fooly Cooly now. Like, I don't need to go back every single year to watch this. Number 21, Daikon 4. This, on the other hand, I've probably watched actually even more times than Fooly Cooly because it's only about 6 minutes long, and it's just fucking epic. It's the first thing Hideaki Anno did with Gainax before they were Gainax. It's just a huge expression of love. A big expression of just what it means to be an otaku. Just like everything that these guys were into is crammed into this video that's entertaining and cool, and it's got an amazing song. Twilight by ELO, which is fucking just god tier. And the ending is End of Eva, before End of Eva was a thing. And that's pretty fucking sick, because End of Eva's obviously going to be on this list later. Number 20, Lucky Star. I've got some videos explaining this one, my why context matters. I've fucking told the stories of my Lucky Star experiences 1,000 times, but it's just a fucking, the ultimate kickback, get drunk with friends, you know, look up all the references, have a good time kind of show. Number 19, Steins Gate. I happen to be rewatching this right now with the intentions of making a video in the near future about it, but so that I can then watch Steins Gate 0 and make a video about that. Steins Gate is sort of the ultimate, in my mind, otaku hero story. It very much is about what it means to be an otaku, what the power that comes from that is, and like, on a conceptual level. It's like the whole show is basically, like, the characters are what matters, the narrative is a metaphor, and, like, if you look at it that way, it's kind of like the penultimate otaku media experiment. I'll explain all this in my big long video, but like, this is why I didn't put Otaku no Video on the list, because even though I think that was like the manifesto of the otaku, and Genshiken is like the ultimate deep dive into what they actually are, Steins Gate is like the meta-narrative writ large. So, somebody knows what I'm talking about. Number 18, Yu Yu Hakusho. This is just like straight up the fucking classic shonen action series. Like, it basically is by the books. It just does it all as well as you can. Like, big tournament arc, it's exciting, all the fights are unique, none of them are too long, it's got an amazing villain, the final battles fucking kick ass, there's deep meanings for the characters and like why they're involved in the conflicts. You move to the Chapter Black arc and it's got like, you know, another fascinating villain, more fascinating powers and battles, and all along the way you're watching Yusuke grow as a person in like one of the most solidly constructed arcs I've ever seen. Like, we talk about character development and stuff like that in media analysis a lot. Usually I find that most shows have you just kind of waiting around for the character to then make a big step. It's like they change, they grow in like some incident, and then you're just kind of watching them for a while. With Yu Yu Hakusho, there's a very natural sense of how Yusuke changes, where he keeps taking on more responsibility, he keeps having to have it beaten into him again and again, and at no point does he just get it all at once. It's not like he wakes up one day and is like, oh, I'm fucking gonna be different from now on, and then is a different character. No, you just see it, you see the way that the things are happening affect him, and you see him grow. And then in the end, you can look at him and be like, this is a totally different guy from who he was at the start, but at no point did it feel like a jarring shift, you know? And the man he becomes at the very end of the series is extremely admirable. You know, he goes from a punk kid with tons of potential that everyone recognizes in him and wants him to recognize, and he just doesn't because, you know, he just doesn't really know what he's supposed to be doing. And by the end of it, he does, and he's a badass, and it's great. Number 17, Kill La Kill. First of all, every second of Kill La Kill is the coolest looking thing that's ever been put to animation. And like, I would have put Dead Leaves on here as well, because I think Dead Leaves as an animator showcase and as an expression of Hiroyuki Imaishi's style is even better, and Hiroyuki Imaishi is my favorite guy. But his true power is unlocked when he's got the script of Kazuki Nakashima, who is one of the best anime writers, because he's capable of writing something that is as deep and nuanced and has as much to say and as many fucking symbols and fucking out there shit as anything anybody else could write, but because Imaishi will tear up the scripts unless he can, quote, you know, put on a school uniform and fight to it, or it makes him want to pilot a mecha, like, that, you know, push and pull between the two of them is what creates the best fucking shows. Like, I can't stand watching something like Ergo Proxy, or where I feel like just the writer had free reign to just do whatever they want and wrote the most, like, overblown, ostentatiously fucking pretentious piece of garbage in the world, and then, like, the anime is just boring unless you, like, really give a shit about fucking, it's got symbols, dude. Like, so does Kill La Kill, but Kill La Kill is not boring. It has symbols and meanings, and it's also an exciting, fun time with great characters and impressive, you know, like, visual flow. Not even so much animation as just the tactics used to make the show flow the way it does are really impressive. I've got like 20 videos about Kill La Kill. I don't need to talk about this shit. Number 16, Gurren Lagann. I put it slightly above Kill La Kill just because, honestly, just because I saw it when I was younger, I think. Like, the two shows they're about totally different things, and they really do feel very different. And in many ways, I think Kill La Kill is the better show, because I do think it has more to say and is more interesting and has, like, more nuance to it. But Kill La Kill, or Gurren Lagann is just so iconic. Like, the characters are the perfect representations of the things they stand for. Like, you couldn't tell the hero's journey better. You can't do it. Like, it is the ultimate. You know, as I once accidentally said penultimate in my video comparing, well, contrasting, not even comparing or contrasting, just talking about both shows and what makes them great and proving that they are not even fucking similar, really, other than the directing style. You know, I accidentally called it penultimate, but it is the ultimate hero's journey story, and that's why it's the only one you'll ever need, really. Moving along. Number 15, Psycho-Pass. This is, for me, the ultimate dystopia story, and a lot of people, like, don't get why I like Psycho-Pass so much, because they accuse it of being, like, a baby's first dystopia or something like that. I mean, first of all dystopias are baby's first dystopia. They're all the same fucking thing, but, like, what made Psycho-Pass so exciting was that, A, it's tight and fun to watch. It's always exciting. The villain is really interesting. The heroes are really interesting. Everyone stands for something. But most importantly is the ending. And I'm not going to go into too much detail because I've literally written more about Psycho-Pass than any other show that's not Kill La Kill. And I'm going to talk about it in my upcoming Shinsekai Yori video. But, like, the whole entire show, I was terrified that there was going to be a big let's take down the system scene, because that's what all these shows do, and it's so boring to just see, like, yeah, no shit, if you take down the system, then you're gonna reset society. Like, that's the easy way out. Give me a more difficult answer. And the more difficult answer the show gives you is that, like, the society is bad, and the civil system is bad, but it's not bad in a way where destroying it would make it better. It's like you need to find something better, or find something within the system that will make it better in order to affect a meaningful change therein. And that's what makes it so fucking interesting. It's got the most nuanced fucking ending. Number 14, Shirobako. This is just the love story of anime, of people who work in anime, people who watch anime, anyone who cares about anime. This is the ultimate show about why it's good, why it matters, why anyone cares. You know, it's so fucking dense. There's so much going on in every single image. I really like it a lot. Number 13, Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex. I haven't even fucking watched this since when I made my video about it, so you might as well just watch that, and it'll contain the most up-to-date thoughts I have on it, because I just haven't rewatched it and haven't thought about it enough over time, just because it's... I feel like Standalone Complex is... It's more interesting than Psycho-Pass because it explores more ideas. And my biggest disappointment with Psycho-Pass is that even though it does explore the dystopia thing, like, perfectly, it doesn't go into, like, enough side stories or, like, show you enough of the effects that this has on society. Whereas Ghost in the Shell, because it's not so central, it's not just, oh, there's a system, the civil system just is all we're talking about, you know? Ghost in the Shell is just, like, a more natural future, like something that you can actually imagine being what the future is, like, 50 years from now. It's complex. It's not about, like, tackling one system. It's about everything that this technology entails, everything that society would become at this point. And so while it can't explore any of those ideas in as much depth as Psycho-Pass does its one idea, it nonetheless explores so many that it's just fucking deeply fascinating. And I owe myself to watch it a lot more times and talk about it more. But, you know, we'll get to that in a minute. Number 12, My Neighbor Totoro. This has risen pretty fucking far up for me. I was not that into this movie the first time I saw it, but pretty much the story of my relationship with any Miyazaki film is I watch it once and I go, oh, that was alright, and then I watch it like 3 more times and I just keep picking up on more and more details and more little things that make me just love it that much more. And My Neighbor Totoro, the first time I saw it, I kind of felt like, oh, well, Ponyo is more fun, so I'd rather just watch Ponyo. And, like, the thing is, though, that My Neighbor Totoro, every single second of it is so well considered. And I guess I can say this about most of Miyazaki's films, and certainly the other ones that are going to be even higher up on this list, but, like, just the way that scenes play out, it's like, Miyazaki never just put a scene in this movie for the sake of advancing the plot. Every scene is its own film. Like, you could really take, like, a 2-minute segment of this movie anywhere and just watch it by itself, and it would be totally delightful. And it would tell you something about these stories. It would be characters, rather. It would be a small story about these characters, you know? If you listen to the podcast that I did on it, the Ghibli cast, like, it's interesting that with that one, with most of the movies, we kind of identify a broad point of the film, and then we're kind of dissecting how different elements of the film contribute to that point. With Totoro, there's an element of that, but it's really just like, again, every scene is its own unique, interesting point. And some of those scenes, the fucking cat bus scene is god tier. I defy you to name a better constructed scene from a film, you know? It's pretty fucking high up there on the list, I would say. And number 11, Princess Mononoke. This is one that I've always loved this movie, but I saw it in like 2003 and then not again until last year. But it's fucking just so fucking good. I mean, it's basically, it's perfect. It has everything to say, and it says it all perfectly. Like, it's broadly a movie about really all of the reasons that there are problems in the world. It's a treatise on not just that love is the answer, but breaking down why hate exists in excruciating detail and never making anyone really the bad guy or the good guy. Everyone has reasons to be there, but even within people who are on like the same side, there's conflict there. And I kind of said the same thing about Planet With recently, and that show has a kind of a similar slant in what I think it's about, ultimately. But there was also a great video by Innuendo Studios the other day called Lady Eboshi is Wrong that kind of explores a lot of what I want to say about this movie that I will say in Ghibli Cast, except that I disagree with that video. I'm going to preface, this is my teaser, I disagree that Eboshi would think that the main character hates her, because I kind of got the impression that she was fully aware that what she was doing is wrong, and that she's doing it anyways because she thinks it's the only way. Because there's just such a strong sense of understanding between her and the main character and other people she talks to, like, you know, and the fact that she's so fucking shady, that she's like, she's openly lying to her people just because, but obviously she wouldn't want to. Like, she cares about them deeply, but she's also just super fucking cutthroat about the mission. Anyway, I'll fucking talk about this movie extensively when the Ghibli Cast reaches it. I gotta cut the clip real quick. Number 10, I've put Cowboy Bebop, and I still haven't completed a rewatch of this show since 2009. I was working on one for the sake of a video that still might happen, called the top 100 moments in Cowboy Bebop. But funnily enough, as I was working on that, I realized that 100 moments isn't that much for Cowboy Bebop. It's a 26 episode show that only averages 4 moments an episode. How am I going to cut it down when so much good shit happens? And the funny thing about Bebop is that sometimes if you just watch an individual episode, it's not necessarily so impressive. Not all of the stories are mega interesting, or even like necessarily paced beautifully, but there are so many random moments and impressions from throughout the series that I can call back to instantly. Like, I'm just thinking about episode 4, the one with Mom, the fucking evil space terrorists who are trying to turn everybody into monkeys. And like, early into that, there's a part where the main character is like going into this casino restaurant, which is already a fucking just fascinating idea, like a casino restaurant in space, and it looks amazing. The whole color design is great. But there's a part where they're like in the elevator and Jet says to Spike, like, hey, there's a no smoking sign, and he just fucking swallows his cigarette. Actually, that might be in episode 3. I'm not even fucking sure. But, you know, there's just so many weird little things that happen in the show that are better than entire seasons of TV anime. Like, that one moment is better than anything that's happened on TV in the summer. So, yeah, Bebop's always got to have a place on the list for that alone. Number 9, Ponyo. One of my favorite Ghibli movies, was my favorite for a long time. It is pure delight. It is pure joy. It's unbelievably beautiful. Like, the thing about watching Miyazaki's films in order, watching the Ghibli films in order on Ghibli Cast, is the realization of how far they've actually come and, like, how much it's improved, because there's substantial leaps throughout. Like, their first couple of films don't really even have that much animation. The art design is incredible, but, like, things don't necessarily move that much or that well. It's not really till you get to Princess Mononoke that you have that, like, insanely polished, every image is gorgeous. But even then, like, comparing that to Ponyo is on another plane when it comes to animation. Like, I'm not sure if there is a better looking animated film in terms of just like the raw amount of shit going on that looks amazing. You know, just I'm thinking of the opening scene with all the fucking fish, and it's like I want to cry just from the mental image I have of it. I could watch Ponyo 1,000 billion times with any audience, you know, and it's always going to be a fucking good time. Number 8, Hunter x Hunter 2011. I mean, I covered a bunch of these in that series that I was doing on my favorites, where I was trying to, like, summarize each of them down to 10 minutes, which was a foolish endeavor and a total misunderstanding of what anybody wanted from me, but, you know. Nonetheless, I talked about the chaos theory of the Chimera Ant arc, and that's, like, the biggest thing I love about Hunter x Hunter. I mean, there's so much to love. It's a long show, and there's lots that happens that is great. But Chimera Ant is just, like, so distinctive, and it's so different from anything else I've ever seen, and just appeals to me in a very personal kind of way. Number 7, The Wind Rises. This, I think, is my highest fucking ranked Ghibli movie. I had to put it above Ponyo because this movie tears at my fucking soul. This movie hurts to watch. It will make me cry. And it's because the main character, he has the perfect relationship, and yet his genius is his undoing. Everything that makes him great makes him awful. Everything he's just his preoccupation with being, you know, with just being what he needs to be takes away his happiness. And I really feel this movie has a lot to say about Miyazaki and how he maybe perceives his career, and I think it's just kind of an outpouring of regret. Just a lot of regret over, you know, having let his desire to work destroy him in some way. I don't know. I gotta make a Ghibli cast about it, obviously. All of these videos, any of these I either have videos about or will make videos about. Don't worry, we're gonna talk about that a little bit later here. Number 6, I've got Kare Kano. When I watched this in 2015, when I rewatched it, I slipped it onto the last slot of my favorites list. And the reason I kept it so low is that the last 8 episodes are just not that good. And it's because Hideaki Anno had, you know, left the production, whatever. There's someone made a video recently, like, debunking myths about, I didn't even watch it. But all I know is that the last 8 episodes aren't that good, and I was holding that against the show. But, like, honestly, the first 18 episodes are just the best anime romance. Like, full stop, it's the most entertaining, best directed, best written, best characters, has all 6 things I want from anime romance. That whole video was just about Kare Kano in secret. It was just a Kare Kano recommendation video. That was the whole point of it. Like, it's perfect. It has everything I could ask for, and I honestly think it's Hideaki Anno's, like, best directed work. Like, Eva has more like, dense meaning, and, like, every image is fucking insanely well crafted, but Kare Kano has that flow that's almost like Imaishi's work, that, like, Anno started to develop more in that later era as he was handing Gainax down to that next generation, and it's like right in the perfect middle ground, because Anno and Imaishi are my 2 favorites, and when they collide there in the center, it's like, it's the juice. Juice! Anyway, number 5, Gintama. I know I've been in trouble with the Gintama fandom forever because I watched 160 episodes of Season 1, and I've had it on hold for the better part of a fucking decade now. It never stops airing, though. Like, people are always like, when are you going to catch up on Gintama? And I'm like, Gintama will never... You can't catch up on it. It's always coming out. And like, the idea that it's going to end has been floated so long that I can't believe in it. Like, I'm not gonna believe it's over until the manga is not in Jump anymore. You will not ever convince me otherwise, because the entire time I've been watching it, it's been supposedly ending. I mean, it's been a running gag in the show since, like, the first fucking block of episodes that they were going to get shut down by the PTA. Like, the idea of Gintama's demise has been constant, and yet it still is here. It's like on the air right now, I think. So I don't feel such a strong need to catch up with Gintama, because the appeal of it is that it just is everything. Like, the appeal of the show is that the author understands the meta of storytelling so well that he can look at any genre and he can just do it. And then he can do it with a Gintama twist. He can make something that's like a horror-themed episode that is legitimately creepy, and then suddenly it's funny, because who the fuck cares? Like, he's just basically making fun of every genre for, like, taking itself seriously at all, or for anyone thinking that there's anything special about being able to tell a story. There's nothing special about it. Just look at the meta and reproduce it, you know? And he does that and then fucks with it. And because he fucks with it, he makes it something more original that, like, makes you wonder, why can't everyone make it this original when they tag? Why can't every shonen action story that has, like, you know, Gintama can pull off insanely hype moments that are, like, as deeply affecting, as, like, heartstring pulling as something you would get from a, like, supposedly serious show, and then right after that have something that's equally effective at being hilarious. And these tone whiplashes are the point, and they're never done badly just because he can do every genre perfect. So, you know, it's basically ultimate. But because it's so fucking long, I can't put it higher on the list, because I can't become inspired to watch it. It's too much. Number 4, Revolutionary Girl Utena. This is one that I've always suspected would get into my top list, because it's so dense, as I always say. But I started rewatching it recently, got through the first, like, 3 or 4 episodes, and it just feels like the ultimate deep dive into what even is a human relationship. Like, each character, because of the way that the show plays with gender, and it plays with tropes and archetypes, and it's just playful in general. Its characters are able to represent, like, a large section of, like, it's almost like MBTI archetypes or something. Like, each character could be given one, and then it's how do they play off of each other, except that it's not as straightforward as those archetypes. It's just, like, you can look at these people and, you know, extrapolate from the way that they interact with each other how they interact with everyone they come into contact with. You know, they're so well realized, and you get to see everyone play off of each other. You get to see all these different personalities colliding in meaningful ways that feel like real life, and it can tell you a lot about, like, what particular mindsets that people have drive them to be the types of people that they are. And, yeah, it's fucking fascinating, and I can't wait to talk about it more. Number 3, another one that I'm rewatching right now, Eureka 7. Holy shit, Eureka 7's so fucking good. It's basically like a coming-of-age story, but what makes it so great is that it, much like Eva, has a rich adult cast. And the most fun thing about the early episodes of Eureka 7, which I'm in right now, which a lot of people don't like. A lot of people don't like Renton as a protagonist because they think he's a weak little bitch, and they don't like that he's just getting bullied by the adults throughout the show. That's what makes it great for me, is that the whole point is that Renton is a dumb-ass kid who needs to have it beaten into him what it means to have the things he wants. Like, he thinks that life is just, I'm gonna go lifting, and I'm gonna fucking fall in love with this beautiful girl, and I'm gonna make her mine, and it's just like every step of the way, it's 10,000 times harder than he thinks it's gonna be, but all the adults around him are so strong-willed and so badass that nothing could stop them from reaching their goals. Like, these are people who wanted the same things Renton did, and they have put in all that work to get it. And so they have no patience for him whatsoever, but all of them they admire that, like, you know, they're gonna put him through the ringer and make sure that he has to work as hard as they did, but he's doing it. And so, like, as much as they tease him, it's clear that they all do believe in him as long as he doesn't give up, you know? So, he's extremely admirable that he puts up with all this fucking horse shit day in, day out, and, like, is still going for it just out of the sheer desire to have the thing no matter the cost. And, like, at the very least, he understands that, whether he understands what that cost is or not. So, yeah, it's fucking dope. I can't wait to finish it again. I love the show. Number 2, K-On! Been talking about this show forever. You probably thought it was going to be number 1 because it's historically been number 1, but guess what? I had to knock it out of the top fucking spot. And I know, you know, some of you are going to be sad. You're sad to see the mighty fall, but this day was always coming. Because the thing about K-On! Is that it is the most beautiful expression of friendship and just, you know, how people affect each other, how, you know, how a group forms a dynamic and an identity through each other. I've written extensively about K-On!, so you probably already know why I like the show so goddamn much. But the thing is that it is just, like, not all of it is amazing. You know, like, a lot of it's amazing, and it is generally fun to watch, and you can fall into this sort of lull and just enjoy K-On! And I do like just enjoying K-On!, but my number 1 anime, Neon Genesis Evangelion, because I finally fucking rewatched it with the movie again, and End of Eva is perfect, and what I realized is that you can just ignore the last 2 episodes of the TV show because they're not the fucking ending. They're not even episodes 25 and 26. The movie is literally called episode 25 and episode 26. The last 2 episodes suck balls, dude. Like, look, I can defend them. I'm not saying that they don't deserve to exist, or that I'm even upset they exist. I loved them when I was 14. They were what, like, made me fucking have my first existential crisis. I understand so many things through them. I bring up the concept of the Asuka in your mind versus the Asuka in her mind all the time as an example for explaining the, you know, perspective. But, like, the thing is that those 2 episodes literally just explain the point. Because they had to be created last minute, and they are not what was supposed to be the ending of the show. Meanwhile, the actual ending is legendary and makes the point clear in art. Because, as I explained in my Purpose of Anime video, like, the whole idea that Shinji could have just been assimilated into the group like he does at the end of the show, but the fact that he doesn't, that he decides he's going to stay on Earth, which is almost entirely gone. Like, him and Asuka are, like, the last 2 fucking people alive, and he's still like, you know what? 1 ain't gonna cut it for me. Gotta have 2. Gotta have this girl who hates my guts entirely and wants nothing to do with me, but now that I finally get it, I'm ready to try again. And Hideaki Anno said of Eva when he was doing the rebuilds that the point of the series to him was always about, like, not giving up. It's about that constant, you know, picking yourself up once again and just being like, I know I failed last time, but I still want this thing. I still need this. I still need human connection. And, you know, to have the show end with Shinji simply understanding the value of human connection, but then just allowing himself to be assimilated into everybody else, it's not really an understanding of, because to just be a collective, to just have everybody think literally the same thing, means that you're not embracing everyone's differences, you're just making everyone the same. So, like he concludes in the movie, that means just being one. It's not, you know, it's not an acceptance of others, it's just a changing of others to be you. You know, everyone's just amalgamated into one, and he rejects that in the end and chooses to try again with someone who he has not only do they hate him, but he has wronged them horribly. Like, he is personally responsible for Asuka being in this position. Plus, he jacked off on her tits at the start of the movie. So he basically rapes her and then fucks the entire world. And at the end of all that, He's still just like, you know what? I'm gonna try my hand one more time. And that's fucking insanely powerful, and that's what makes it a legend. Also, the movie just looks fucking amazing. It's like the most entertaining thing to watch in the whole world because every shot is god tier. So yeah, I would say Ava, it edges out K-On! On the strength of, me getting it now, I guess. So there you go, that's my top 27 anime. Happy birthday to me. I hope you enjoyed this. I am going to come full circle now. Back when I started my anime blog, initially it didn't have much of an identity. I was just kind of copying random things I saw from other blogs. I would do some episodic posting, I would do some reviews, some analytical stuff, just kind of whatever. Whatever I happened to think about would come out. When my blog did eventually form an identity, it was around a series that I called The Epic Journey. Can you tell it was the late 2000s and I was 16? The Epic Journey was where I was going to take each of my favorite anime and rewatch them and explain my feelings about them in extensive depth. It was the beginning of me doing long-form analysis videos. And the idea of them was to just let out every conceivable thought I had. Like, every detail, every nook and cranny, because I wanted to sort of, like, finish these shows. I wanted it to be like, this is complete. I've said everything there is to say. But, as I've talked about, I mean, you can probably tell now that the last, like, 6 videos were kind of building up to this in a way, like, at least philosophically. You can't do that. You can never be done with them. But, if the main thing, if the thrust of anime is the fetish, to explore the individual, to explore your own taste, your own, like, what makes you uniquely you, and what does anime say that reaches that unique part of you, and if you can never really be done with the show, and you can just go on about it forever, and if what my audience really wants is for me to just make long content, like I said in the last video, put all these things together, and what is the answer pointing to? Just make super fucking insanely long, in-depth shit about your favorite anime. So that's what I'm going to try to do. I'm going to reinvigorate the Epic Journey under a different name, which is to say no name, because I don't like having series names. But I promise that I'm going to make super fucking long, in-depth videos about all these goddamn shows I just named. So, take that as seriously as you take any other promise I make. Peace out, biatch!